podcast focused on trends shaping the future of manufacturing. I'm Alexandria Bjork, your host, here with A.W. Schultz, two thought leaders with a passion for people and manufacturing. Today and every episode, we are diving deep into the advancements, sustainable practices, and dynamic changes transforming how we produce everything.
And now welcome Alexandria Bjork and A.W. Schultz.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Factory of the Future. I'm here with A.W. Schultz. I'm Alexandria Bjork. And today we are going to be talking about one of the most innovative, absolute, wildest entrepreneurs who is disrupting multiple industries across the globe. We are talking about Elon Musk today. He's one of my favorite entrepreneurs. And what we are interested in sharing are some of the unconventional best practices that you can bring to your factory floor, inspired by Elon's approach to solving problems and manufacturing. So, AW, why don't you kick it off with some of the interesting things that you found as you were listening to his biography or reading his biography and just generally preparing for the show?
Absolutely. And this is exciting because there's a lot of documentation on Elon Musk, and he certainly likes it. And where I took it from the biography point of view is the manufacturing mindset and just the intelligence of the guy. I mean, he went from PayPal's to building rockets,
Yeah.
and being told it couldn't be done, and he did it, and he's still doing it. Honestly, I have no doubt that he's going to find a way. If anybody's going to do it, he's going to. But circling back to what I saw from a manufacturing standpoint, hardcore simplification. And that couldn't be even more what Elon Musk is. So you think about the sophistication of the Tesla vehicles and the rockets, but he removed barriers to make sure that these things were successful and they're coming in online, constantly worried about the bottom line, the ROI. The way he would just, his hardcore decision-making on driving some of the processes that go into it. We were just talking about the Giga plant. When he first brought it into life, he wanted it completely automated and he wanted it state-of-the-art. But one of the things he quickly found out is that there was many inefficiencies with a lot of these technologies and the robots. We talk about this in Industry 4.0 is just right-sizing it. And you think of like Tesla, he brings in the youngest, smartest folks that he can find. He doesn't want people that aren't willing to work less than what he is. And he works a lot.
Yeah.
And what was so interesting is just there would be points where he would just rip off robots and throw them away. I unfortunately was part of that one of those exercises too, but it just took us a few years to make that decision where he would make it in a day. And I think that's just fascinating that, especially at his level, that the manager
skip
tracing. And that's a new term for me, by the way.
Yeah.
So he would go straight to the person that's working on the problem, that's experiencing the problem. And that's where he would work it down to it.
Yeah.
And
he absolutely is. I talk about, he's radically unconventional in the way he approaches his manufacturing and business philosophy. And when you talk about the hardcore simplification, there's so many different ways that we can all apply this to our own lives in business and outside of business, right? If you just take 2 seconds and think about what are you doing and what actually contributes and adds value to what you're doing, you can really start deleting a lot from, your business process, I had this moment where I was training an individual on something and like co-training, say, my counterpart was logging in and logging out of 2 accounts. And I was like, just open 2 tabs and have one be account that you're logged in and then the other. And he's like, oh no, I just I just like logging in. I'm like, this is killing me. It's painful. Like there's no reason to do it this way. And and I question a lot of business processes in my day job and in other areas of my life. Like, is this absolutely necessary? And when you talk about hardcore simplification with Elon, he always says, if you don't have to add anything back, you didn't delete enough. And I think that's a great principle to keep in mind when you're designing a manufacturing process, when you're designing any type of process at all, any business process at all. If you haven't had to add something back, you haven't deleted enough, right?
That's from his book, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
like that quote.
yeah. And kind of shifting gears a little bit, like I find it very interesting. We were talking before we started recording about how he really moves the people to the place in the factory as to where their oversight is, right? So an example would be engineers are literally positioned on the factory floor. That's where they're working, is at the physical location of the problem or problems that could arise. And I think that's a really interesting approach because where do engineers sit? In an office that they have to walk to the
Maybe
factory
not even the
floor.
building.
Right, right. And so like I think that's a pretty radical best practice that more companies could look to, you know, engage on. Like what would be your thoughts about like how that would work? Or have you ever seen that anywhere or heard of that any other than just with him?
I have. I've seen it. But the problem they were having, they had a lot of bureaucracy in the facilities, but they were making some of the right moves. But I have seen it too much where, yeah, the engineers aren't even around. They're somewhere else and they'll come in, make a visit, and then there would be another meeting with the design engineers and
Right,
operations have no input on it.
right.
It's it's funny how we have to this is still a discussion that has to go out there. Right before this we started recording this, Alexander, I was on a call with this other individual. He makes automotive parts, and they were working on an onboarding program for their employees. And my immediate question was like, are the employees involved in this process? And they're using augmented reality for the onboarding, but the
Oh,
IT is the groups that's running it. They're not in the building; they're
yeah.
somewhere else. And I worry the fact that IT is going to try to hand it off and run away and leave somebody else with the problem.
There's no integration in that.
No, no, there's not.
No integration. And we've talked about this numerous times on the pod, but when you don't include the end user, likely, like even when you do include the end user, in my experience of implementing new technology, new process, there's no possible way to foresee every scenario that could arise. And if you're sitting from like a more managerial standpoint or high level, high mid to high level, you are going to be so blind to the, in the weeds experience of the end user that you're going to be starting behind the eight ball so severely, you don't even have a chance at being successful if you don't engage them. And I mean, I'm in the middle of one of the most complex business processes that I've ever attempted to roll out across my organization. Um, and it's not going as I had planned. There's been some technological hiccups and the real significant things that need to be worked through. But there's also just this adoption, and it's been a significant challenge for me to get this to where it needs to go.
Okay, so what would Elon do?
I can't do it. My company is not designed to
No,
operate
no, no,
in.
no. Okay, I'm sorry. Elon would see it through to the end. He'd work with them to get down to first principle. I love that term, by the way.
Yeah, yeah,
Root
yeah,
cause analysis. He would be out there on the factory floor. And guess what? If you're on the factory floor, do you think you're going to allow your boss to be on the factory floor and you're not going to be there? No, you better be out there with them.
yeah,
And you're going to be with them as long as he's going to take. And the one thing about Elon, he'd sleep under his desk just
yeah.
because he wanted things working. And, you know, it's okay to fail. Let's fail quick and get going again.
Yeah, yeah, and on that same stroke, I think he has a level of expectations that you could argue is out of this world, quite literally,
Which is on purpose.
which is on purpose, right? And I think part of what drives him in general, well, firstly, he has zero patience for bureaucracy. And if anybody hasn't learned that in the last year and a half, I don't know what rock you're living under, but that seems to be, and that goes back to the skip trace management. But he has this level, and most entrepreneurs in that tier have this obsession, this radical fixation. And I feel like he even makes other entrepreneurs in his same class, he just blows them out of the water with his
Yeah.
level
Yeah.
of radical fixation and obsession over the projects he's working on. And I think that we can all take that. I think one of like if I'm thinking about how somebody could take this, like if you're running a team, what are the expectations you're setting for your team, for yourself? And what is the baseline standard that you accept? And if I get criticized often on my team because I think my expectations are too high for what the general culture of our group and organization would expect. And so that's something that's a constant point of frustration for me personally, is the level of expectations doesn't seem high enough for me.
Just going back to the Elon, one thing I liked, and I just reminisce, like when I was a supervisor in processing, it would often like he would just there was the case where I think it was it was the Teslas that when they were early stages coming out and they were failing quality control. What was happening was, I guess there was a part being on there, and no, let me take a step back. There was two cases. One had to do with quality control, and things were getting backed up.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "What's going on here?" Well, he says, "You're not making it." Well, you need to help and support operations to help meet those expectations. And I just love that, because
Mm-hmm.
so many times in my career, I was stuck with that. Quality said it's out of spec. Putting it all on hold. You got to figure out how to rework it and make sure it doesn't happen again. And by the way, do a root cause analysis and let us know when you're done.
Yep.
If that was an Elon's plant, it would not happen that way.
No.
And the case he talked about, he ripped the ass off of quality, saying like, "Why are you letting this go through? It should never even got to this stage."
Yeah.
And there was another example where there was something that was being assembled and it had a cooling on it that took time. And he was asking, like, we need like, I think it was 5,000 cars by X amount of time. Otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
he was going to go under. I mean, he invested everything into it.
Yeah.
And in this particular case, he's asking, what do we need this for? And he's like, okay, walk me through the process.
Yeah.
And I guess the engineers had decided there was a risk that if
Yep.
something could happen, I guess what it was. And he goes, forget about it. Just get rid of it.
Yeah.
And it was just like that.
And it was fine.
He removed a lot of the barriers.
Yeah.
And that's what he did with a lot with the government too. There was in the book, and I'm getting off the manufacturing, not really, but with the SpaceX that, he couldn't just go on the Air Force base and launch his rockets. And there was so much red
Bureaucracy.
tape in it, going to an island or something.
There was something he said once in an interview about being in violation. Like there were two laws that were directly in conflict with each other. And two regulations that he had to abide by. But if he followed one, he would be violating the other. And he's like, this just doesn't make sense, And I think that's a great, illustration or demonstration of his ability to be so big picture, but also yet so in the weeds at the same time, problem solving. I think that's just a incredible example of what a leader is. Now, it's very clear in the book that there's certain people who loved working for him, with him. There's also other people who admit that it was the most thrilling, exciting time, but they could not do it in over a sustainable long-term
Yeah.
period of time because it's so intense. And the chaos and the stress and all these different things. And he often says, people wouldn't want to be me. And I would have to agree with him on that. Like, I can't imagine what's going through his mind or what his internal and just general reality is as a human who's trying to solve these complex problems. I mean, I think I saw something recently that Tesla, within the last 2 years, the last count I saw was they had 300, just under 300,000 employees. If you can imagine having 300,000 people that you're responsible for, and that's just one company.
That's easily in our adult lifetime,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. No, I mean that I looked that up like a
That was
couple of
after
years
the
ago.
iPhone, wasn't it? Was it
But
2008? I don't know.
no, it was last couple of years ago. Within the last 2 years, I looked up how many employees Tesla had, and the number is 275,000 employees that Tesla reported 2 years ago. So at this point, Tesla's got to have nearly 300,000 people, I would assume, working for them. And that's one company. So like theoretically, he probably has about 1 million people out of the world that he's responsible for in terms of leading and providing, financial whatever too. But I think we're getting off track and I think it's time to wrap it up. So I'm gonna clock out of here and call it a day, unless you have anything else to add.
I do, but you're right. I think we need to clock it out like
Yeah,
finished goods.
we're out of here like finished goods. All right. Have a good day, everyone.
This is Factory of the Future, and we are out of here like finished goods. Stay tuned for our next episode of Factory of the Future, where we're exploring groundbreaking techniques and behaviors that are reshaping industrial landscapes. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review and help others discover the cutting-edge insights transforming manufacturing as we know it.